I used to be trans, and since then I have detransitioned. I was very young when I started feeling issues with my body and my self-esteem. I was maybe 8 or 9 when I hit puberty, and it was around this time that sort of my anxiety started, then started feeling discomfort within myself. When I got into high school, I fell in with sort of an LGBT friend group. In this friend group, everyone aligned their identities so fully with their sexuality or their gender that I began to believe that this was like normal. Now, my parents weren't even necessarily against trans people, but the whole culture of LGBT teens is that you are in some ways misunderstood by your parents. It was very, very easy to fall into the mindset of no one understands me, I'm from a different generation, my issues are completely unique to me. No one ever explained to me that puberty would be a difficult time emotionally. It's a strange feeling going from sort of childhood to adulthood. And the difficulty of that does not point necessarily to your gender identity, it just points to sort of your own discomfort and mental health. I publicly identified as trans or non-binary for 4 years until I was, I think, 15 or 16. I sort of perceived the whole wide world to be against me. So I had sort of built myself into this little victim mindset. Because of course people didn't fully understand the fact that I was non-binary. I mean, a lot of people did not, because we were 12 and 13 and this was a new thing. But I took that very, very personally, and I took that to mean that they were against me. The next couple of years after I sort of publicly detransitioned were very, very hard. It was really difficult to sort of re-establish myself, knowing that I had made such a huge mistake, and that was probably amplified by my own feelings of depression and social anxiety. And it was just, I don't think I ever fully reintegrated back into like high school society after that, because I found it really embarrassing. It was a difficult thing to have gone through so young and to base your whole identity around, and it's such a big thing that when you realize that you're no longer that thing, the people around you just turn, essentially. I think I was just heavily misguided, and being so young, I was so impressionable, and so I suppose it could have just been that I was told so many times, it's possible that you're trans, it's possible that you're trans, that eventually I started to believe it. I know a lot of people with stories similar to mine, both personally and online. No one really talks about the rising amount of young women who at some point considered themselves trans, either medically transitioned or didn't, and then came to regret it. The only real time I've heard this discussed publicly or online was through a Joe Rogan podcast with Abigail Shrier, who has also written a fantastic book. But she basically says being transgender now is to depressed teenage girls what, say, anorexia was in the 90s or drugs were in the 70s. It's sort of what girls who have home problems, who have issues with their body, who have issues with their family, it's what they turn to as a solution for their identity. I can see it now, how incredibly high the levels of transgender people are rising, particularly amongst young teenage girls. I mean, it's unprecedented. It's a several 1,000% increase in the last 20, 30 years. And you have to consider that some of that must be cultural and some of that must be societal. I don't think it happens organically that, you know, such a huge percentage of young girls just wake up one day and realize that they're trans. I mean, despite the fact that I date women, not exclusively, I don't identify as being part of the LGBT community, because to me, the LGBT community, or the one that I have experienced, clings so much to its beliefs and to its system and its agenda of sort of self-victimization and attacking anyone who disagrees with this experience. This is true of a lot of detransitioners, that I can't personally agree with it. I don't think it's right to sort of attack anyone who doesn't agree with your specific dogma, and it's a difficult thing to talk about. I know that a lot of people will probably resent me for putting out this video, despite the fact that I've tried to stay as true to my own emotions and experiences as possible. But I do it with no malice in my heart. If anything, I do it out of empathy for other young girls who are like me, who see this as the new solution to their issues with themselves and their femininity. Every day I am so grateful that like my parents didn't have enough money for me to medically transition at 12 or 13, or that I didn't run away from home and decide to have a double mastectomy. You know, that it's difficult for young people in the UK to go through these treatments, that you have to wait so long. Because if I had not had to wait so long on the NHS, I would have regretted it so much. I mean, in the past couple of years, my femininity has brought me so much, and I never would have been able to experience that had I not detransitioned and taken the time to really consider my own identity. And I know I'm not alone, because I personally have at least like 5 to 10 friends that have all done this to some greater or lesser extent. And I think the statistics mirror this too. It's something like a majority of people who transition are equally as depressed as they were before than they are after. And I think the percentage of suicide goes up very highly 5 years and after medical transition for a large percentage of people, which is interesting to me because it was always posited as a life-saving surgery to have sort of top or bottom surgery. I think it's such a huge decision to make without having been told the other side of it. Things like testosterone, they tell you that it's not permanent, but it is. Some of the public sort of detransitioners who have been on testosterone, who have become infertile because of it, because that is an inevitable side effect of testosterone, who experience joint pains their whole life, chronic pain, fevers, anything like that. It's something that I wouldn't wish on anyone, to look back and realize that they made a mistake. It's such a huge and irreversible mistake to make, that if anything I say can help people consider whether it makes them truly happy, then my goal is achieved. All I really want is for people, young women especially, to, before they make any permanent decisions, take a long look inwards. Heal your mental health first of all. That is the biggest thing, I think. Heal your mental health, and then consider if you still feel uncomfortable within your own sexuality or gender. Because for me, after I healed my mental health, I feel almost no inclination towards like masculinity or androgyny. And I think that's the case for a lot of people who sort of experience depression in their earlier years, but then change as they get older. It's a terrible mistake to make. One I hope that is made a lot less often. I'm so grateful every single day that I did not make any medical choices that would have affected me my whole life now, because if I had had the choice when I was 12 or 13, I fully would have believed, yes, I want to be infertile my whole life just for this. And now having children is like my #1 goal in life. It's my biggest goal. It's my dream now to have children, and it breaks my heart that that could have been taken away from me if I had been encouraged just a little bit more by my parents or by, you know, the system or the NHS or anything like that. But yeah, this video has no hate towards trans people. I just want everyone to consider my own perspective and my own experience as someone who has detransitioned, and having been deep within the LGBT community, and then having left it, having stopped being depressed, having come to a lot more happiness in my life. And yeah, again, I only send love and hope and peace out to all of you, and I hope that you find peace within yourself if you're watching this video. And yeah, love you. Bye.